And good evening, Paul. How are you, sir?
I'm doing all right. I'm a little cooler in here than you guys are outside, for sure. You're wishing for a breeze. I'm wishing they turn the air off in here, but I guess that would be no good for ice conditions. Well, when we're looking at this matchup, it seems really simple to paint things in terms of black and white, right? Old versus young, experience versus inexperience, haves versus have-nots. But it's really not that simple. Despite how dissimilar these two teams are, they really have a lot in common, and it starts with the way these clubs were built.
We've been lucky.
Lightning General Manager Steve Yzerman isn't referencing Tampa Bay's first-round comeback over Detroit or the 7-game thriller against New York. Stevie Y has always been about the bigger picture.
You look back at any team that gets to this point or any team that has any kind of long-term sustained success, it's really through homegrown talent. It's just impossible, even more so with the salary cap, to try and really build a team to be successful over a period of time through just through free agency and through trades. You need the assets to build the team.
Stamkos, Johnson, Hedman, Kucherov, Palat. The Bolts have plenty of assets that have come up through the system, just like the Blackhawks do.
Chalmerson, deep slot with a shot.
Chicago laid the framework for a salary cap era dynasty led by Jonathan Toews, Patrick Kane, Brandon Saad, Duncan Keith, and Brent Seabrook. And the similarities between the franchises don't stop there.
I think the way they play is also something that's similar to the way we play. I mean, they play a fast game. They have a lot of skilled guys. I think you can see a lot of similarities in both groups.
Then there are the captains, Stamkos and Toews, separated by just 2 years in age, but by a gulf of playoff experience. The former striving to become the latter.
Johnny's an unbelievable captain. We've seen what he's been able to do since he's been in this league, and I have a ton of respect for him. But to be honest, this is a lot bigger than us two, and he'd probably tell you the same thing, that he's willing to do whatever it takes to win, and so am I. So we realize what we're up against. We're up against obviously one of the best teams in the league and one of the most experienced teams, and to see what they've been able to do the past 6 years, 5 years is pretty impressive. That's what we see ourselves doing.
Stamkos says he's envisioned himself lifting the Stanley Cup trophy over his head, but if he wants to be like Jonathan Toews, he's going to have to do that more than once. A good way to start would be dethroning the Hawks in the midst of their mini dynasty. Rod? Yeah, lots of excitement for the fans and for the players. Hockey's one of those games you just develop an affinity for at an early age and then take that from the cradle all the way to the grave. I remember when I first fell in love with ice hockey, I would make box scores up for my dad for Detroit Red Wings games so he could check them out when he got home from work. And I was just a fan. I wasn't actually playing the game, and that's how excited I would get. Imagine what it's like for the players and head coach John Cooper.
I think my parents still have the dryer downstairs in the house where I used to shoot the puck in the dryers that open up, and I think my mom still has a dryer, 40 plus years later, and that's where it all started, was in that little basement in Prince George.
Now, I didn't ruin any of my parents' washers or dryers, but I probably broke a few things every once in a while. Sorry about playing hockey in the house, Mom.
Well, I think she'll forgive you, Paul. You've done well for yourself and everybody else who enjoys this game.
What are the Bolts going to have to do to beat the Blackhawks, Paul?
Well, I've got an idea, but first I want to mention that at 6 o'clock sharp, the folks here at Amalie Arena started playing Phil Collins' In the Air tonight, and it just got to the drum part. It was awesome. You just missed it. But anyway, back to the Bolts for just a second. How are they going to win this game? Well, Dan's talking about the triplets and how good they have to be. I think they have to play better defensively. I mean, to be honest, we've seen in the last 3 series exactly what sort of hockey game the Lightning have to play if they want to win the Cup. They have to be defense first. Think about the end of that Detroit series. Game 7 against the Rangers. Both 2-0 wins. No unnecessary risk. No freewheeling, fun-to-watch hockey, as much as the fans might not like it. Just stick to the basics, and that's when the Bolts are at their best.
They're such a fun team to coach because they can play the game in a multitude of ways. So if you want to shoot it out, which our guys like to do, we can shoot it out. But you want to win, you want to go to the Stanley Cup Final, and you have to play D. So if you really want to do it, it's a choice.
This team plays its best when we play defense first, because we have the confidence that our forward group and our defense can score goals.
We'll see which Lightning team comes out tonight, the one that wants to go out and score goals or the one that wants to play tight, boring defensive hockey. Back to you.
All right, Paul Ryan joins me now out here on Thunder Alley. Steven Stamkos says it simply, we want to be winners.
Oh, it's that
and
easy,
so
right?
far,
Yeah,
they've been winners. Yeah, they've been winners against some of the most historic franchises this sport has.
Yeah, from 1947 to 1962, before we were born. Don't worry about that. But for 25 years, there were only 6 teams in the NHL. You know them as the original 6. Well, if the Lightning were in that league, they would have already eliminated half of the competition, looking to make it 2/3 in this series.
And the Tampa Bay Lightning are going to the Stanley Cup Final.
The Lightning are the first club in NHL history to defeat 3 original 6 teams in the same playoff year. The idea of a 90s expansion franchise beating up on hockey's upper crust has made this playoff run even sweeter.
You know, for a lot of guys, you know, played in New York, a lot of guys from Montreal, just going through those teams, a lot of families watching it was something that you grow up kind of hoping to do, and it's been exciting. I think we've learned from every single series, but we realize this one's going to be the toughest, so definitely a challenge ahead.
You know, that's an experience that we can learn from and build off of, and I think we've answered each time we've been questioned.
Proud of the guys of how they've reacted, and we played 2 Game 7s and played some tough series. You know, got to give a lot of credit to the Detroit, Montreal, and the Rangers. Those were all great series.
Waiting in the visitors' locker room, a 4th original 6 squad, one with the championship pedigree, rich history, and a roster full of stars. Basically, nothing new for the Bolts.
Every round has given us a different challenge, but every time there's been that little bit of adversity or we feel like we're down and out, they come back with a knockout punch.
You know, Cooper's got a real point about different challenges in every series. I mean, you look at that series against Detroit where the Lightning were down and out, down 3-2, going to Detroit for Game 6. Then they had the 3-0 lead against Montreal and almost let it slip. Took them 3 tries to eliminate the Canadiens. And then, of course, taking 3 games at MSG in the last series, including Game 7, which no team has ever done before.
Right, 3 elimination games, 3-0 for the Lightning.
You'd think this young team isn't so young anymore. They might be ready for anything.
Hey, speaking of MSG, my buddy Ron Carter and I, we spent some time out on 8th Avenue there at Madison Square Garden. We're now amongst friendlier confines.
I feel like we just did the World Wrestling Federation, like, switch off there.